What's up everybody, Rob Ferretti here, and I think I'm gonna have Jimbo make a little intro so I don't have to introduce myself every time. Maybe like, yo, it's Rob Ferretti. So like, I don't have to do that every time. And then you can be like, your name's not Ferretti, it's Spaghetti. I hate you all. What's up everybody, Rob Ferretti here, and today we're gonna talk about the BMW M6. And that's an excellent example because I just did the ultimate test drive in the BMW M6, which is the ultimate driving machine. And you really have to look at a car as to what it's worth. I've always been a proponent of buying something for what it's worth versus what it costs, if that makes sense. So just because a BMW i8 stickers for $150 doesn't mean you should buy it. Just because some guy's asking $40,000 over something doesn't mean you should buy it. There's a lot of cars that you could drive and you're like, this provides this much money worth of value and experience. That's where you should buy it. That's why I even said, the NSX, it's not that it's a bad car, just not a $250,000 car. It's a $125,000 car. Same thing can be said with the BMW M6. Now, I just rented it for adventure drives, 8004 in Europe, and there is nothing about that car that essentially I don't know. Now, granted, I did not play with all the buttons, and I'll be honest with you, I did not realize that the M1 and the M2 button affected the performance of the car. Therefore, I did not push them until several days into the trip when somebody who was renting the four-door M6 told me like, hey, if you push the M button, it really livens it up. And I was like, oh, cool. So then I was M buttoning it from there on out. And apparently it adds 100 horsepower, blah, 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 blah. Regardless, that car, I looked it up and it starts base price at 119,000, 116,000, whatever it is. It's up there. And if that's the base price, that's before options. And I'll tell you this, it's not worth that. That's simple. That car, I get in it, I drive it, and it's a spectacular car. The interior, it's of nice quality. The leather is good. The leather doesn't look like it's gonna fall apart. The older BMWs, the leather holds up. It's just not worth 150 grand. It doesn't speak to those levels. It's got performance. It's got looks. I got it in a pretty drab color. I had it in gray. It's got nice carbon fiber, but it doesn't feel exotic. And exotic cars command the higher price tags. Anything over $125,000 or $150,000 is an exotic car. That's just the way it is. And I didn't get that feel from the BMW. And then I started looking online when I got home, and where I said in my head, this car is worth $75,000, I then see that car sells for $75,000 with any sort of mileage on it, which means whoever pays $130,000 instantly loses a hell of a lot of money. And it'll always be worth $50,000 to $75,000, even with miles on it. Why is that? Because that's what it's worth. That's the experience that it gives. That's why cars, regardless of what they sell for initially, go up and down in value. And yes, I said up in value because the Ford GTs, I drove it and I said 10 years ago that this car is worth more than $150,000. It puts out a $200,000 experience to you for looks, for drive, for performance, for buildability, modability, everything, exoticness. It was there. And what happened? It went up higher than that, but that $200,000 price point, it's always going to be worth that. So I drove the M6 blazing down the Autobahn. I had it flat out for a while. It's got a big gas tank. It cost me $150 to fill that thing up in Europe, just because it's the equivalent of like $8.50 a gallon for fuel. And that's essentially not cheap. It drinks a lot of gas, especially the way we were driving. But it handles all right. We drove it through the Alps. We drove it through the Dolomites, which is the Italian, it's still the Alps, but the mountains in northern Italy. We drove Stelvio Pass, we drove Gotthard's Pass, we drove Grimsel and Furka Pass. We did everything, and I've gotten the full experience. You can't have asked for anything more than I drove in the 2,500 kilometers that I drove it. And like, you know what? I'll give it a $75,000 car. It's worth it. Fits plenty of luggage. That's nice. If you had to pick like one car, it's that whole thing. I'm a firm proponent not having to force yourself to choose one car, but if you had to choose one car, and maybe an umbrella right now, I would definitely say that the M6 is a solid all-around car. Maybe an M6 Cabriolet, the convertible will be an all-around car, but not at $150,000. That car is a good, solid, 75, maybe 85, 90, maybe 100 fully loaded M6 convertible with carbon ceramic brakes and all the carbon packages and everything like that, it would be a solid 100 grand. You're going to lose money at that point in time, but those cars, if you could score them anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000, that's where you buy it. So that's what it's worth. Fun car. I got to admit, it's got power. It held its own with the 488s and the 458s and the Huracans that I was running with down the Autobahn. It's not, everyone's like, wow, the thing really boogies out. And it should. It's got a lot of power, and you could probably mod it because it's a twin turbo, but just something to keep in mind. It's not worth the original MSRP, but it is worth a solid 75 G's. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go wring out my shirt now because now it's raining. This is Hurricane what? It's the one that just hit Louisiana yesterday, Biloxi, Mississippi, whatever. This is a hurricane right now. Or if I was like on the news, I'd be like, this is a hurricane right now. And it's really, it's not that bad. It's just like a rain here. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're going to rent a car and experience it like that and get that ultimate experience, rent a BMW from Sixt, Avis, someone like that in Germany. You go literally rip through the Autobahn. You will know exactly what that car can do, and you will definitely get your money's worth because it's significantly cheaper to rent cars that are fun and nice in Europe than it is in the US. It's a fun fact, fun tip. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos, and this is my BMW. I don't know what else to tell you. Catch you next time.